Welcome inside the Fox Weather ROWI Report. We're looking at week 3 of the NFL. This is an early outlook for the games this week. Of course, talking about the games that will be impacted by weather, the strategy, the players, the coaching, and does this impact your fantasy lines in betting? You know I'm not doing this alone. We got Easy E in the booth with me today, and he's a little more chipper. Big smiles on your face this week there, Ian.
Yep. Let's go. 1-1, baby. The Patriots, 2-0 in fantasy.
Woo!
We're rolling.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into, Ian, what we are seeing for this week. We're going to start off with the Great Lakes and those matchups up in Soldier Field and Huntington Bay Field. First off, painting with a broad brush. Ian, we know this early when we're doing the early outlooks, it's all about, of course, just pattern recognition.
Right.
Kind of looking at what is happening in these areas, and then as we fine-tune the timing intensity, that will happen later in the week.
Right. So we get this little disturbance. We're thinking sometime around the second half of the weekend could be impacting both of these Great Lakes games. You got the game going on, as you said, in Chicago, but also over in Cleveland. Not some huge signal, Steve, but enough that we could see maybe some showers around, some gusty winds to go along with it.
Yeah, and so for this, we're looking at that rain. I think this is going to stay sub-severe. Ian, you and I have talked for the last 2 weeks about Florida a lot, and guess what? That's the other spot. A different type of dynamic than what we experienced down there, where you get this deluge of rain. This is more of that soggy rain, but still can play an impact. Let's dive into one of those games, of course, Huntington Bay Field. That's going to be on the southern shores of Lake Erie in Cleveland, Ohio, where the Green Bay Packers go to the Browns. And
Packers are rolling.
Bro,
they look good.
Dominant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There was a lot of preseason hype, like, oh, the Packers are a Super Bowl team. And it was like, really?
Yeah.
Yes, really.
I think, here's the thing. Normally we'd say, hey, rain would maybe make this a little better for the underdogs. I don't think that's the case. I think the Packers steamroll. I think for this, it all comes down to the betting lines.
Yeah.
When you think about the over and under, I think it's into like 44 right now, depending on what books you're using. And I think it's purely because they think that the Packers can't score more than 44 points on Cleveland right now. That's like, Cleveland's been so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing.
Well, they looked all right in week 1. I thought they would keep it a touch closer, and they did for like half the game against the Ravens last week.
Yeah.
And they lost by 1,000 somehow. So
yeah,
I guess you're right, Steve. But yeah, I don't think there's anything, whether this slides its way into the medium ROWI category moving through the week or not.
Yeah,
I don't think there is much that's going to change the outcome of this one.
But we start talking about, okay, the players are going to be impacted, right? So as you had mentioned, this was at a medium earlier in the week. Now it's the timing change. This could change yet again, as you had mentioned, as we get closer to kickoff. Who are the people that are going to be most impacted? Quarterbacks, right? We're talking about a rain game. That's the one where they start looking at the, adjustments, throwing downfield. And look at Jordan Love. We were joking about this beforehand. I was saying, I think dude loves the rain. I think he wants it.
It's as if they just start slinging it, though. Everything goes up. Interceptions go up.
True.
But so does passing touchdowns and yardage. So it's interesting. We also have to point out, we pull these graphics.
Yeah.
This data from the NFL. Jordan Love is a smaller sample. So he may have just lit it up one game where there was some rain.
True.
That may not be representative, even though at this point in his career, it looks like it does.
But what you said, though, is that I don't think they stay away from the air raid attack. Like, because even if the interceptions go up, his pass yards are going up, but still to be even not seeing it decline, because normally that's what we talk about, right? You're not throwing the deep balls, now you're throwing quicker options, right? The flats, you're throwing out slants, pick passes. Here's a guy who's probably got a bunch of games under his belt because he's been in the league forever.
It's the opposite side of the data coin, for sure. But, I mean, when you're talking about an elite quarterback like Joe Flacco, you're not expecting much of a drop-off, and his interceptions actually go down, which is, I'm playing in Baltimore all those years. You know, he played in some nasty weather games. This is impressive to see that metric go down in games where he's dealing with a wet football.
It's a good point you bring up with Baltimore. Their weather is gnarly. It's a different dynamic, but here's the thing. I mean, we just got to address the age now. I think we're seeing that reflected now with Joe, and so with this, I think any element that's going to work against him, like rain, I think that's going to be compounded because of just the arm strength here, and why I think, regardless of what you had said off the top, I think this hammer home's a point. The Packers are going to steamroll in this game. I think even if it turns into just a grounded pound, they just have that dynamic in place. So let's talk about the other game that's going to be ongoing, of course, in the Great Lakes over the weekend, Soldier Field. This is a 4:25 kickoff as the Cowboys rumble into town. The spread, by the way.
This is an interesting game.
Yeah.
The Cowboys came back from the dead, and the Bears stayed dead.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting battle for that reason.
Dude, the Cowboys are an underdog in this right now.
Disagree.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I've already put money. By the way, that's the reason why we do early outlooks on this, because we know the spread is going to change, especially the Cowboys, because they are money heavy. They got so many people in their fan base that they're going to bet hard regardless. But I think with this, we got to remember, week 1, they were going against the Eagles, and the Eagles were dominant, and yet they still hung tough.
Right.
And like you had said, they came back from the dead. I think that comeback last week, that's the momentum. I think Cowboys are back. I think they
messed up the Russell Wilson legacy game.
Oh, dude, for real.
And that was a classic, though.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Throwing it over the top. Celebration night, a little too early with that. But I think, with what makes this interesting, and I'll give the Bears a credit, is that if this does turn into a rain game, I know we are seeing some lightning with that. Of course, that leads to some delays. I think actually rain game goes towards the Bears' favor. I think once you get the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands and out of Caleb Williams' hands, I think you have more of a dynamic game with the Bears here. And I think it keeps them competitive.
You know, he's ranked like 7th or 8th quarterback for fantasy football this week.
No way.
Maybe part of that is a sloppy game. They'll be throwing it around. Just hope, as you said, for fan safety, but also pace of play. Like we're talking golf, we don't get any of these thunderstorms around that shut this game down, because we've had some issues through the first couple weeks.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I could see why he's maybe ranked so high, because Cowboys secondary has been rough. So looking at that, if
He's
this
got
stays
that connection
clear,
with Rome too.
Yeah, so that does look pretty good for that. I just feel like if this stays clear, though, then you're looking at CeeDee Lamb. You're watching what guy who got traded? Pickens, thank you. They're both averaging well over 12 yards a reception right now. So you see then the air raid attack, and this is reflected in Dak's stats. I mean, look at it. When there's no rain, dude is airmailing it. He's throwing it all the time, and I think that's what leads to this.
The rain stats, 3/10 of one pass touchdown is not a good number.
Achilles heel. That's what I'm saying. I think if it turns sloppy, this turns into a battle of the trenches. By the way, we haven't even talked about the turf there. It's the Kentucky bluegrass. It's natural grass at Soldier Field. It turns into a muddy mess down in the trenches. It's known notoriously for not doing well with holding the water if it comes in.
I've taken some divots out of Kentucky bluegrass. I know a lot about it. Living down there.
Yeah, so something we'll be watching for is the Great Lakes. That's the only spot, of course. You and I spent a lot of time in Florida. We say this every week, but again, no surprise. Florida afternoon and evening games are going to be impacted by potentially some rain. And this is for both games, but I think for Northern Florida, a better opportunity of seeing some of that rain set up.
You see Baker, the playmaker?
Dude, what a stud. Dude, I got out early on that game. I was on air and in the commercial breaks. I was watching the truth, man.
I would have preferred if they would have just gave it to Bucky Irving to run it in the end zone, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, true. Why?
It was a great
fantasy
game. Yeah,
you got Irving.
various implications.
He might get fed the rock here.
Yeah,
right. So we're gonna be looking at this game. We'll get into
the Bears. Before we leave that, the Bears drafted a punter in the 4th round, 3 picks before Bucky Irving.
Yeah, but did you see what Caleb Williams texted him?
No.
He texted him when he got drafted. He says, hey, you won't have to punt here. Yeah. Since then, he's punted over 90 times, the most in the NFL.
Leading.
Yeah. So, whatever. Block his number. That's what you should do if you're the punter. All right, let's get into the rain game. This is one that I think is interesting. I've hammered. Again, this is a toss-up. I think actually the Jags are favored in this game. I don't believe in that. I'm watching the Houston. They've gotten robbed both weeks, close games.
Yep.
I think the only thing that keeps the Jags competitive, if it does rain, because Etienne, he's showing signs of life again. He's back.
Etienne's looking good.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence. The only one that we haven't seen much out of, weirdly, is Thomas.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see. They've been playing well. They did have a brief stoppage last week.
Yes. They had brief. Yes, Jags. I'm trying to remember who they were playing.
Yeah.
They've had some problems. Well, because there's back in this Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, similar type of setup. I think the concern with this one is showing you this is a broad pattern, right? We're going to have to time it out a little tighter as we get closer, but it's showing the window of time is open, and that's no surprise, Ian, when you're talking about the entire afternoon in Florida.
Yeah, so the ROWI's in the medium category for that reason, primarily the precipitation impact. And Steve, this is a function of that same almost like semi-permanent weather pattern we've been in, a trough off in the eastern United States. That's an unsettled setup for Florida with a flow off of the Gulf. Of course, thunderstorms going to be possible. Those winds, too, could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, that's important to note. And something else, I was doing a little research. Bermuda grass on this one, and it's actually known to do very well with the rain. So we'll be watching for that. Let's take it out to Ray J now, out into Tampa.
Yeah.
This is a 1 p.m. kickoff, and what we know about this setup, the winds have been feeding off of the Gulf. You get that convective energy, and I won't be surprised by the second half of the game. We're talking about some rowdy thunderstorms over Ray J.
Yeah. 89 for the air temperature. It feels like temperature that's more like a hundo.
Oh, yeah.
You got the storms moving through. That's going to be a soupy one. Any 1 o'clock game in September at Ray J, soupy.
Yeah. Bucs heavy favorite in this one, I think rightfully so. Jets obviously dealing with Justin Fields. He got a concussion, so will he be playing or not? Tyrod Taylor, he's getting some of those snaps, of course. But I think the Bucs have shown that they are forced to be dealt with.
They're a
right
contender.
now. Yeah. No, it's I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. Of course, really early outlook on week 3 as of right now, but we do have a game that we have that's coming up here shortly. So we do have a short range model on this one. The Dolphins, the Bills. I don't care where you played this. I don't care what the weather is. They're absolutely going to get steamrolled. My hot take on this is the Dolphins should already be relegated. They should be into a different league. Pull somebody up from UFL. I'm so done with watching Tua.
You were telling Owen about this, weren't you, earlier?
Yeah.
0-3?
Yeah.
The Dolphins?
They're awful. They're going to be 16. Have you seen that? Did you see the press conference afterwards?
I saw
Daniels, there's something going on.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, obviously poke fun at that. I'm just saying that they're disorganized. Week 1, they had a team meeting.
That punt return goes to the house. I'm watching it as a Pats fan, and I'm sick. Then the ensuing kickoff, I'm like, we are so back.
You're so back, right?
Vrabel chasing him down. It was awesome.
Dude, that was, that screen where Vrabel is running that snapshot in time. I just think, I don't see Tyreek staying with the Dolphins through the entire season. He's going to get out, and he's the only thing that's showing signs of life. So what we're showing you right now, by the way, Bills, ridiculously good right now on all fronts. They're a heavy favorite, I think, by over 2 touchdowns right now, and rightfully so.
This is going to be a controlled demolition.
Yeah, weather is not going to matter. You know what I'm saying? In this part, interesting. Now, later in the season, Orchard Park has been notorious, so that would be a fun stadium to watch. But, so this is an easy outlook. By the way, there's a lot of games. We got to the ones that are going to be impacted by the weather most likely, but we'll be watching those other games throughout the week ahead. I don't know if there's anything else, Ian, other games that you've been watching for. I know your Pats are going to be having a game against the Steelers. If there's anything to note with that or something we'll be watching for a bonus episode later in the week. Got anything?
Nope.
No other games?
That's, I'm looking forward to it. We had the BOGO Monday Night Football this week, which was always nice.
Yeah.
So you can actually make it through a whole game without falling asleep.
Yeah.
Waiver claims in today. I have a couple. Got Joe Burrow as my fantasy quarterback.
You're always trading. Did any of those trades land, by the way, for our listeners from week 1?
I've made 0 trades this season. But not for lack of
time.
trying.
You know you've been in the league a while.
Yeah.
If they're saying no and they're declining the trades.
Never stop grinding.
Never stop grinding. By the way, put your money in early in the week. That's what we were talking about. Hammer some of these things that we've been talking about as well. We'll be watching the games closely, of course. I'm glad that you all have been tuning in. We'll have updates throughout the week. Stay tuned for that. Until then, be easy and check us out on wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. See you then.